already know from the music what movie we're watching, so let's get right into it. Jaws was released by Universal Pictures on the 20th of June of 1975. It was directed by a young Steven Spielberg over here in his second major directorial debut. It was written by Peter Benchley and Carl Gottlieb. Uh, Jaws was actually based on the book that Peter Benchley wrote, I think, a year prior to filming and everything. The most notable actors are Roy Scheider, which is bottom left, Robert Shaw, which is this man right here, and Richard Dreyfuss, which is this man right here. And the brilliant music was composed by John Williams. My summary on the movie Jaws is that Jaws is based on a small summer island that is intruded by an enormous great white shark that seems to attack anybody that dares to go into the water. This causes Chief Brody, played by Roy Scheider, tough ship captain Quint, played by Robert Shaw, and an expert on all kinds of sharks, Matt Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, to team up and hunt down the shark haunting the island. Jaws' official titling is that this is a drama slash mystery movie. I can understand why it's a drama, because there is a lot of examples throughout the movie that are supposed to help us kind of feel for the people that are on the island being terrorized by the giant shark, by showing us examples of a mom that lost her son, or maybe a mangled corpse, you know, isn't really the best. And as for mystery, uh, I'd say it's a great example for mystery is the fact that we don't actually see the shark till about the climax. This is about the first time we see a full kind of image of the shark. I think it extends a little bit under. I think it's just too dark to see because my computer's pretty bad, but is a great example of mystery because we don't actually see the shark until about the main chunk of the story and the main action goes down. I would definitely classify Jaws as a hybrid because this still doesn't, prove a lot to you, but this is probably the one scene, even though I've seen this movie before, I don't know, I just forgot about this scene, but this is the one scene that actually made me jump. So definitely classified as a horror. Also a thriller because there's a lot of chase scenes. This scene led to a chase scene, which can get you a lot of kind of on the edge of your seat. Get you thinking, why don't you just throttle the boat, go faster? Typical movie stuff. So if I were to give it a new genre, I would definitely give it a horror slash thriller because it's definitely a little bit more on the scary side because it's also made in the 70s. So there weren't a lot of, you know, scary movies compared to nowadays. So this would definitely classify as a scary movie back in the day. Maybe not so much today, but definitely back in the day. It's kind of hard to pick out a theme of a movie where a shark is kind of terrorizing an island. But what I came up with is that the sea is a lot more dangerous than we think, and we should definitely trust professionals and not, you know, exploit the beaches or exploit the sea for our own personal gain. Perfect example of that is the mayor of the island. Throughout the beginning of the movie, because he's only in about the first half of it, he kind of turned a blind eye to attacks and tried to keep the beach open for the 4th of July to keep the island's financial status alive, as he said, because he said if closing down the beaches would be detrimental. So that I think is the overall theme. Just listen to the professionals, do what they tell you. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, I don't like swimming in the sea anyway. I prefer to swim in a pool. I don't know about you guys, but that's just me. So here I made a list of the symbols that are used throughout the movie's Jaws. Obviously, the major big one is the shark itself. The shark is a symbol because it is one of the most feared fish out in the sea, but it can also be a symbol of destruction, both physically and economically. English is hard, isn't it? But I say that because, I mean, you can see from the picture that the boat is pretty much tipped over, and that was caused all by this shark. And I say economically because, like I said before, the mayor is really worried about keeping the beaches open so Amity Island can, you know, get that revenue. Another symbol is the iconic theme song. I don't really need to explain it that much because, you know, anytime you hear that music, you know exactly what's gonna happen. Speaking of the mayor, he's another symbol of Amity Island. From the picture I provided here, it's the same as the last picture, but this pretty much showing you, you know, his vertical lines. You know, he's trying to uh, kind of his kind of way of showing everyone around him that he's the man in charge. You know, he's the one that makes the decisions. But right after the little scare with a shark on the 4th of July, you can see that he's, you know, rather distraught. You know, his tie's loose. His suit's not even, you know, straight. His button is on loose. So I can say that the symbol kind of gave in to the professional. And in this scene, you know, I can't really play clips, but in this scene, Brody is trying to get Mayor to sign. I think it was just like a petition to get a professional involved in, you know, capturing the shark or killing the shark. I don't really know if you're gonna capture that, but at the time they didn't know. So you can tell from, you know, this and that he's kind of giving into the professional. So that kind of ties in to what I said about the overall theme. You know, I use the same picture too. So a color that is used a lot in this movie is the color red. I think they used the color red not only to represent blood, because as you can see, this is the first kid that died in this movie. There's lots of blood. Um, you know, I don't think they just use red for the blood, but also I think they use red to associate with everybody killed in this movie. Spoiler alert: only 5 people died in this movie. The kid, Chrissy, in the opening scene. This fisherman, I think his name was Ben Gardner. I don't remember. Some random dude in the pond, and Quint up here in the top. One thing associated with all of them is that they're wearing red, or are associated with the color red. You know, with his little shorts, his hat. I forgot what this thing is called, but it's red, even though the picture deceives you. My pointer's red too. That's cool. His boat's red, and Quint's boat is red. So all of them have in common the color red, and all of them end up dying in the movie. Spoiler alert. Sorry. One thing I really liked from this movie is the use of underwater shots and the, you know, the moonlight, or the, in this case a flashlight, in this case a moonlight, you know, going through the ocean, hitting the camera, makes everything look really nice. You know, uh, this is Hooper underwater, and this is the opening scene of the girl Chrissy. Another use of lighting is half of the light is covering Quint's face. Now, it doesn't really make a lot of sense with just a picture, but in the context of the scene, this is when Quint starts opening up about his past to deal with other ships. I think it was something along the lines of his ship got shipwrecked. Sorry, he got shipwrecked, and all of his crew members, about half of them, got wiped out by sharks, which is why he's kind of devoted himself to uh, capturing sharks and, you know, killing them for fun. That's kind of what he does now, and that is Quint again, because I like this shot because it shows, you know, kind of a darker side of him, you know, with his whole past and his situation with sharks and how he really doesn't like them. Examples of foreground framing is one down here. You know, I think I think it's kind of the opposite. In this scene, Rhodey's kind of looking over his shoulder because he thinks this is very important, because the first two attacks have already happened, or actually the first attack happened, so he's very cautious about anything going on. He's kind of ignoring this guy. He doesn't really care what he's saying. This is a nice wide slash long angle to show, you know, how many people are actually here on the 4th. Now, obviously, what makes Jaws so iconic is the score produced by none other than John Williams. Here's from the opening scene that I showed you earlier. I mean, it's what makes this entire movie. It's great music to go with a shark attack. It's used again in this later scene, about right around the climax. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I like this scene because the music starts to fade away as the shark, you know, swims away. You know, that's the feeling. You know, he's swimming away. So I like how it fades away, thinking like, you know, he's safe because Hooper is in that shark cage. I don't know what to call it. I think it's a shark cage where you just, you know, sit in it and observe sharks. You know, he's swimming away from the cage. You know, Hooper thinks he's safe. Some sounds is Chrissy. This is the first kill. This is Chrissy, if you don't know. This is her screaming into the night, as she's being attacked. And I really like it because there's lots of waves crashing around, her flailing. Obviously, being eaten by a shark, you're not going to just go passively. And another sound is just overall the background noise in this movie is great. I mean, this is a good example of, kids playing or practicing for the 4th of July little parade that they're doing. The band going on while these two are trying to have a little conversation, or somewhat of a conversation. I don't really know. But overall, throughout the movie, there's nice ocean crash, and the waves crashing onto the shore, seagulls, doing their seagull thing. It's really nice. I'll bring up the Chrissy scene again. This is her screaming, obviously, like I just said. But I like the editing because it goes from, loud waves, her yelling, to silence. If you don't know, this is the guy that she was supposed to go swimming with, but I think he was just too drunk to get into the water. So it goes from her screaming, waves crashing around, to just him laying on the beach. A nice sunset in the background. You know, I think it's really nice editing there. The acting going on in this movie, I think uh, Robert Shaw and Richard Dreyfuss did a great job in this movie. They conveyed a lot of emotion. They really played their characters nice. Even though we're not talking about characters, I can say that Quint and Hooper were probably my favorite characters in this movie. I think they just did a great job. I think uh, I don't think Roy Scheider did a really good job in this movie. Honestly, I don't know. I don't think I really like the kind of boring acting. He didn't really convey a lot of emotion. He was kind of more of a stale character.